Welcome to another episode of the Bandwagon Podcast. And today, I don't know how to kind of describe him. I say this quite a lot, really. He's multi-talented, a musician, a singer, a Bhangra dancer, a Bhangra performer, and now venturing on. I feel like he's going into one direction, but he's giving me dirty looks at this point, so I'm not going to believe him. But Mr. Stephen Sahota.
How you doing, guys? How you doing, Rick? Pleasure to be on the bandwagon.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm a big follower of the show, so it's good.
Nice. You're probably one of the only ones, so that's fine.
Oh, look, one fan's better than no fan, right?
That's because I keep sending you via WhatsApp, which is like.
But this is the power of social media, man. It's all about directing traffic.
It's all about your own hustle.
This is it. I do the same, so it's all right.
Yeah. Firstly, I want to commend you on your lovely hair.
Thank you.
So, like, at the moment, it's in between King Jamal. There's Jazzy. There's a bit of Macho Man in there.
Like, I mean...
Who's the inspiration?
What a mix of Bunde to have.
Sadala Gill.
The list gets better and better.
So how come the hair, man? Just talk to me about that.
Nah, the hair, you know what? It was just lockdown. It happened. And it just grew. And then I thought, well, let's not fight it and just see what happens and let it grow. And here I am, still letting it grow.
It actually looks good on you now. At first, when I was having, let's get this clear. Me and Stephen have known each other for a very long time, so I'm not being rude. It's just the way that we talk to each other. So this is quickly how it's normally this me telling you off for some reason or something along those lines that we talk.
There's a lecture involved somewhere.
Yeah. That's good.
Is what it is.
So, how's life been treating you at the moment then?
Life's been good, man. Life's good. Life's busy, I think, but I think everyone can say life's busy, and this is it, man. Just wrapping up what is kind of, been a big year, and this is it. Just kind of, ready to rock and roll for 22 now.
Where do you see yourself at home? So, like I said, like in terms of your experience within the music scene, you can honestly say it's lifelong. Your socials clearly demonstrate of how big music plays in your life. Where are you now in terms of that in that settled position?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't think you're ever like settled, because the problem is if you settle, then you're not moving forward, right? So it's a case of you've always got to move forward, and like my whole life. And yeah, you're right. Music has been a massive part of the biggest part of my life. And so it was always a case of moving forward, doing more. And you don't realize it because you love what you do, but it is a progression, and that's it. So I'm not settled. I'm not, it's a different kind of now career path I've taken in terms of, becoming and transitioning into a singer, but it's all about improving. It's all about getting bigger and better and moving forward and not settling really.
Do you get to a point where you think like this is definitely the right thing for you, or do you sometimes have your doubts and say, look, I can go into a bit more safer territory in terms of what you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, look, mate, it would have been, I could have just carried on being a musician, and I love, like, being a musician's probably my first love, to be honest. And I was doing Touchwood, I was doing well, and and I got to play with some of the biggest and the best artists the Bhangra industry's ever seen. But the singing, it happened. It wasn't planned. It was a transition, and now I'm getting to a stage where after the off the back of releasing singles, I enjoy it. It's a lot harder work because you have to hustle for yourself, and you're doing it for yourself. But at the end of the day, any rewards that you might reap, they're yours, and it's all about a measure of the hard work that you've put in. So yeah, I still feel I'm on the right road, and the biggest thing is I enjoy what I do, and that's what music and kind of any art form should be.
Have you noticed any changes in relationships that you had with people, or when you've got to do some of your own hustling, to try and promote yourself? Because like even like doing a podcast like this, you realize those people who are kind of silently clapping or not really trying to push your stuff forward or helping or not even commenting or any not that for me that's a big thing, you know. It's not a big thing, but for you, like, this has got the potential to be your routine, you know, like as a full career. Have you noticed with that? Have you noticed that change, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed a bit of it. I'm not going to lie, like that. You know, I've noticed that change even far back from when I was a musician. And someone once said to me a long time ago, they're like, people only like you until you're competition. And like, you know what, the words do ring true. And like, don't get me wrong, you've got your people with you, like your team behind you, friends, family, the real people that you know have been there from day one and day dot, and people that just generally, you know, they just want you to succeed and they're really happy with you. But you know, yeah, like, you know, but you've got to know who the real ones are and who the fake ones are. And fake ones, chalo theek hai, sare nu sasri gal garni pendi hai, but like, you just keep my arm's length. And yeah, you know, there is a slight change, but it is what it is.
They're probably the funniest thing is they probably stream you more because they listen to they'll listen to what you're doing first.
That works, man. Look, man, if you ain't got haters, or if you ain't got people that, you know, are not really pushing you as much as they could, or you know what I'm trying to say, that means you're doing something right. You know what I mean? And so that's fine. That works with me, man. I'm not really bothered.
So you come from a bit of a musical family, I would say, from inspiration as your dad. Can you just tell us a little bit about his journey and the impact that it had on you as a young Stephen?
Yeah, you know, like, my dad, you know, had an interest in kind of music and like dhol and dholki and stuff. And so, you know, my taya was a singer back in the day, and we all lived in one house. And my taya sang for a band called Astad Group. They had a band back in the 70s, I suppose it was. You know, and you know, Shonky, his name was SS Shonky, and they were, you know, a good band. And at the time, though, but there was no money in it. There was no nothing. People, you know, that as the old school singers will always tell you, they pretty much perform for free. But then by the time I was born, he'd stopped all of that, and you know, it just wasn't providing an income for his kids and so on and so forth. And you know, but my dad always had an interest in playing kind of dhol and dholki. And growing up, that was all I kind of, you know, knew from being a toddler. It was all about banging on pots and pans, and you know, and it was always, you know, I just had an interest for drums and percussion and stuff. And so having kind of picking up a little bit from my dad, and he then noticed that, you know, there's something in this kid in terms of he's got an interest and he's got a pure passion for it. That's when it kind of led on. And my dad learned from Shindabadi, so Staji Sikshinda Shindabadi, he learned from him. So I remember going to a few dhol lessons at, I think it was Holyhead School. You know, and then...
That is gold, just because like back in the day, if you could... I remember we used to have, on my road where I used to live in Handsworth, there used to be about, no shit, there was about... It was hard, man. There was 8 dhol players on our road. Majority went to like Thor Blasters.
Yeah.
And then, like, I went Thor Blasters. And one of the lads, he used to play Suki. Used to play for...
Haste.
Suki used to play for Natural Sounds.
Oh, okay.
Steve.
Because there was a Suki that played for Natural Haste as well.
Yeah. And he had a duggar that was given to him by Sukshinda Shinda. So like that was like the holy grail that we see. We used to see it. We used to have it. Had it in a door case, so we just want to just hold it because it was just like, yeah. Well, I could have played. You would because it was a weird. It wasn't like the normal kind of like up and then across. It was curved.
Yeah.
And the way, and then like Suki would play. Only Suki was allowed to play at that time.
Heavy.
And to even like see Shinda, because that's all you, like, as kids, you're hearing grassroots, especially, you know, learning all the roles and everything on there. It was just like, this kid is the best.
Like you've lived that same journey, like, you know, growing up. Like if you imagine what Shinda is now, and you think, wow, my dad used to learn all from him. I went to lessons, you know, and I went to a couple of lessons and stuff. You know, you look back and you think that's pretty special. Like, you know, he's one of my all-time idols, inspirations, purely because of the fact of, you know, what he was as a musician and you know, then a music producer and a singer, and the amount of, you know, stuff we've practiced to on his tapes. And, cassettes and CDs, and still practice to this day, whether it's a Punjab piece or there's a Dhol roll or something on the Dholki. The guy is just.
I actually got. He's one of the few people I ever got starstruck, like genuinely starstruck.
Yeah.
I used to go to Bibi Nanki Gurdwara and on Rookery Road in Hansford.
Yeah.
I used to see, and my baba wasn't well, so we used to take him kind of like the back way where there was no stairs.
Yeah.
And but when you finish your Lunga, you can either go for the front way, but proper hands of used to go through the back way straight out to Alfred. Right? And I used to see him coming out. And one time I saw him there, and I was like,
yeah.
And he just said, "Oh, hi, you okay?" And I just shook his hand, and my dad was looking at me like, what's going on? Yeah, what's going on with you? And then he's related. Then he used to use Jinder Pandal to play the Tumbi and a lot of stuff. He's at Pendu.
Yes.
And so he came down.
Well, the record, Jinder's a bad man. That guy was.
Yeah, proper. And then recently I managed, because Jay, who looks after a lot of his stuff, he's on the Panjabi cycle club. So I went and I saw him very briefly. And I was like, you just want to talk about Shinto, innit? Yeah, you might talk about Shinto, but not to him, innit?
Not to him. Like, I'm the same in terms of that. Look, I'm quite an outgoing person and stuff. So there's very few people I get starstruck by. Shinto Baji is definitely one of them, right? Like
Jazzy, the other one.
Yeah, and Jazzy would be, again, one of my idols, right? And he's another one, right? But like Jazzy B, because he has a bit of a laugh and a joke, he'll start laughing and joking with you. And Shinto Baji's a bit more like, little bit more reserved until he knows you, and then he's really cool. And the fact that these guys just, from the fact that they even knew like my name, or they know my name, that was like, wow, these guys know like my name, like, and that was amazing. Like, so having performed on stage with them and sat with them and, ate with them and whatever, drank with them. And, that's living the dream, more than being in the limelight and being a singer, like sitting with your idols. And I have so many questions for them, but like, I just haven't asked them because you're not in that.
But then you turn into like the fanboy.
Then you turn into a fanboy.
Yeah, because I think that's been the hardest bit, where you want to be like not nosy, but generally kind of curious to say, about this. And so like sometimes when I see some of your Insta posts and you're with this band or that one, I'm like, oh shit, this geezer not like he's in there, man. He knows. Like you've got an opportunity to get those questions out and learn and see it fall through, because I think you're one of the only ones who you frequent quite a lot of places and you're able to speak to a lot of artists.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty with being in the music industry. Even like as a musician, I've learned so much. But you learn so much by playing with all these different people, and that's the beauty of you. You're lucky to be on stage with these people, and you want to ask them so many questions, like music people and music questions, but you don't want to come across as an annoying like fan, right, and overwhelm someone. And yet you've just got so much, like the fan inside you wants to come out, right? And like, have
you ever taken the risk and said, I'm gonna ask him?
Yeah, every now and again, and like the majority of everyone's, they're all brilliant. Shinto Baji's brilliant, right? Like, if I asked him a question, because he's a proper music nerd as well, like I think he just needs someone to ask him something about music, and then he'll just unload all his information, right? And he's one of those people. But like, yeah, but it's got to be also in the right time and environment, and you got to manage it right. But everyone's wicked. Yeah,
because you want to get booked again, innit?
You don't want him to say, "Oh no, like I'm working." One of them ones. You don't want one of them ones. You know what I mean? But yeah, even I'm in hair body, like whatever. Like I can have a chat with him on a level, and he's, and these are the people that like I've looked up to, because they was, they're solid musicians and producers, and that was kind of, that was the dream basically. So yeah, they're all wicked. Can't compliment them enough.
So your dad learned from Shinto, and then like obviously did you start having an interest straight away? And because there's a young picture of you with like Marnik, and you were with. How old were you when you with Thor Blasters?
Yeah, so like my interest, like this is before I even remember. So this is just what my parents tell me. Like my interest was literally from a toddler, banging on pots and pans and so on and so forth. So my dad was one of them. He'd never really learnt from anyone, you know, boss tool, keep it any or tool or whatever and stuff. And then he started learning from Shinto when I was probably about 3 or 4 years old. I remember going to a couple of lessons, and I think Shinto stopped teaching around the time. But then that's where kind of my foray into kind of, you know, learning Dhol came, because then I went to my Ustadji, the King Gurchan, you know, at the age of 3 or 4, and he was a bit shocked, like, you know, normally that's too young for a kid to start learning because of concentration levels and so on and so forth. But yeah, man, since then, like, it's just, you know, that's the journey kind of, you know, started, and I was kind of, you know, blessed to be under his guidance.
And that was one of the key things around that side, because he was when Thor Blasters, when I was there at that time, I can't even remember what year, probably like 98, 99 or something.
Yeah.
He had like so many students from different age ranges, and the way, you know, boys, girls, everybody, you know, to do that, and, you know, managing such a big team at that time, and like a lot of people have gone through there, like Money Spinner Boys, Banga, everyone.
There's been some solid musicians, producers, artists that have learned from Uncle, or, you know, and come out the other end. And, you know, that's testament to him in terms of, you know, like the way he taught us, the structure of everything, and it gave us a very good foundation to build on, basically. Do you know what I mean? And so those who wanted to build on it did, and they, you know, they're carrying on, and those, you know, if it wasn't for them, it wasn't for them. But yeah, there's some, if you look back at some of the students, there's some very, very talented guys.
Yeah, I actually remember one of my lessons where next to me was like Amrit Saab. And
yeah, I remember.
That was Mervyn Road.
Yeah, so we probably, you know what, we were in the same lessons. Then we must have been, because
I got quite lucky. I
was a kid though, so you
no, because you were with like Gurj Gill was there, and I used to see him and his dad Sadara Gill, like they used to get dropped. He used to drive down my road because on the way to Mervyn Road.
Yeah.
I used to say to him, because I used to be coming back from my lessons holding my Dhol.
Yeah.
But what happened was,
there was 2 classes. There used to be 6 till 7 and 7 till 8 or something like that.
Yeah, I used to do 6 till 7, and I think the advanced ones was after.
Yeah.
So I used to see some of them, but when I was learning, we knew Apna Bhajan.
Yeah, who doesn't know Apna Bhajan?
Yeah, at that point. So he at that time, and so I was having my classes, and he saw me playing the Dhol at it was like a millennium show. It wasn't a millennium, it was another party. And he needed a Dholi, so he asked my dad. And my dad goes, yeah, well, ask him. So I just said, out of respect, like for elder, and I was like, yeah, he would do it. But it took me out of Dhol classes, because then I learned one thing. I learned how to play the main beats. And then I realized very quickly, when you're playing along with the DJ, none of that means anything, because you got to learn a different pace. You need to learn clarity and all these kind of things. And then I was like, I didn't go back to classes, because the goal was to go with a DJ and get paid. And that's what happened. But I still, Gurchan used to live where I used to live, the Sandal Road, which is at the top. So I used to see him quite often anyway. And and then especially when DJing shows, like Bhajan was everywhere, so he was everywhere. You'd see Apna's Geet, you'd see Gurchan doing shows and stuff like that, charity events. So we used to always have and like he doesn't live too far from me now, and I have a great relationship, a good joking relationship with him. So and I think the impact in terms of what he's done culturally for the Dhol and the actual significance of how he's highlighted the instrument's been amazing.
Yeah, I think what you gotta remember with him is that he's put Dhol on the map. Right now, don't get me wrong, you know, there's some amazing ustads of Dhol, right, in India. You know, for example, you got Lal Singh Patti in California, right, and you've got the originals, Harbans Lal, Kakkus, Chandas. These guys are godfathers of Dhol, right? What John Uncle did, he put Dhol on the map, right? If you think of a Dhol player, you think of him, right? And his whole life is dedicated to like Dhol, Bhangra, Gidda, like folk kind of that local naach, local that, you're looking there, local instruments and local music, folk music. And, he's done that in the UK, right? And he's worldwide for what he's done and, supporting musicians and, kind of, you can't ever take that away from him because of, that his contribution to the UK Bhangra industry is second to none.
And then, so, you became, how soon from when you were learning from like having your classes was your first gig to become not just Sansar Tulli?
Yeah, so what happened was like just going to lessons wasn't just amazing enough as it was. I got to, right, don't forget, like, like rewind back a little bit. I grew up on old school concerts and so on and so forth. So from a very young age, I was seeing Gachan Uncle on Dhol. And he's one of those people, you don't forget him when you see him. He's the ultimate showman. He played for Apna Sangeet, who at the time were, and still are one of the biggest bands of all time, basically. Right. And so I used to watch him on video. I was starstruck by this geezer, starstruck. Right. And so then going to learn from him, I didn't know what to do. I used to back in the day when weddings used to happen and like kids used to be running around and playing, I used to just stand on the dance floor and watch the band. And if it was Gajanoko, I used to just stand there and watch him with my mouth open, like proper fanboy, right? And so kind of going back to then getting the opportunity to learn from him, that was enough for me. And then performing for Thor Blasters, I was lucky to be one of the early members of Thor Blasters. And then, then coming into contact with Nachda Sansar, who I thought were absolutely amazing. Then, I wanted to play for Nachda Sansar, and then kind of, it didn't happen for a long time because I played for Thor Blasters for a long time and performed. And then due to kind of education commitments and stuff, my dad then made me have a little bit of a break on Dhol, and I kind of then went to kind of.
Why did he want you to have a break?
He saw what was inside. I got a feeling that he saw what was inside. Basically, he knew that this was going to take over my life, and it was taking over my life. In terms of, I still studied at school. Don't get me wrong. I passed my 11 plus. I went to grammar school, right? With your younger brother. So we went to grammar school. But so once I got to grammar school, my dad was like, "Look, I want you to concentrate on your education. You need to have an education." Obviously typical Indian parents thinking they just want the kind of best for their children.
I don't think I agree with you on the Indian parent stuff and that, but I also think like the structures of what the DJs are now started around that time when we were younger, because you started having bigger road shows, bigger collectives, door groups, and all these things happening. And I saw many dollies that who got into that wedding scene scenario, young lads started drinking, wedding all around them, and they fell off. So I always kind of
get it.
I understand exactly, just to give significance to some people out there. At that time, there was a dolly on like I said, everywhere, and people were growing up. It was quick money, not easy money, because it was long hours, weekends, and all these kind of things. But there was a lot of easy distraction.
Yeah, and I think because I was so young, for a certain amount of time, I'd been kept away from that because I was so young. Do you know what I mean? So like my performances were just squarely with Thor Blasters, right? And I think that's it was a blessing in disguise. Don't get me wrong. As a kid, and like you see Dhol players going to play for DJs, you think they're so cool and whatever. But because I was so young, I was never kind of in that circle. And there was a lot of DJs because I was a bit novel because I was so young. And playing Dhol and stuff, and a lot of DJs wanted to take me, but my dad was like, "Look, no, whatever." And sometimes DJs have a certain, like you say, that you can get into bad circles and so on and so forth. But it's a blessing in disguise, because the shows I did with Thor Blasters at that time, if I think back now and I think, wow, I've done this, right, playing some of the biggest concerts with the biggest singers, like
G7. Oh, was it G7?
Yeah. G7, right? But we did like arts festivals, right? Birmingham Arts Fest we used to do every year, and like they're not Panjabi festivals. These are mainstream music festivals, like international tattoo festivals, things like that. And then, you know, the performances, you know, very memorable ones was, there was one concert that in NEC and Wembley Arena, all the singers from India you could think of were there. Kuldeep Manik, Surinder Shindar, Manmohan Norris, Hansraj Hans, Sarjeet Chima, Binder Kia, they'd all, imagine that for a lineup now. Right, and I was about, like, used to be like 6 or 7 opening those kind of shows and chilling backstage and chilling with these singers, and like I've got pictures now, and I go back and think, like, that's gold, man. That's like this gold, like, of what I've got. Do you know what I mean? And I remember interacting with them and so on and so forth. It's, you know, I did some crazy performances with Dhol Blasters, and you know, as a young Dholi and as a young musician, you don't quite grasp it at that time what you're actually doing. But now, as you're older and you look back and think, okay, wow, I actually did that. You know, the BBC Mega Millers, all of that kind of stuff, man. It was an amazing experience.
Those were big, man. People don't
huge
Mega Mill. Yeah, that was when, like, you know, the Asian network was booking out like 3 days at the NEC.
3 days, and we used to be there pretty much 3 days. You know, I remember meeting the, like, you know, people like, you know, Anil Kapoor, Shah Rukh Khan, right? Like, and you never used to think anything of it, but now you think, okay, well, fair play. They, you know, they're big deals at the end of the day. So yeah, man, done some crazy shows, and I think that all built, you know, all kind of put part of the experience of being a stage performer and stuff, and it's all, you know, early kind of building.
So in terms of like some of the roles and things like that, where I'm getting a little bit more technical, wasn't necessarily kind of taught in Thor Blasters and stuff.
No.
How did you sort of continue your own professional development, so to speak, in learning some of the more trickier things, and then bringing that into a new style when you're playing for a Bhangra team?
Dude, it's, you know, the more you put into something, the more you're going to get out, right? And the biggest thing I can say is, like, when we were at, you know, learning Dhol, you know, that what we were taught a very classical and technical style in terms of, you know, people think of Dhol now, they think, oh yeah, you only need to play 1 or 2 beats, but we learned so many different beats, because Gajan Uncle had been from that Bhangra kind of background. We learned all those Bhangra beats, and, you know, and the sort of the foundation and the platform we had to build on. The biggest thing he gave us was that foundation, understanding of, you know, it, you know, and at that time for us it was a basic understanding of rhythm, but, you know, it's just your passion.
There used to be that thing, wasn't it? It was like Thor Blasters at that time. It was more about stamina, clarity, and pure. And the rock and roll tools were like Thor Foundation. It was just, yeah, which is just like dedicates and everything. Yeah. And I always felt everybody always used to look at each other, you know, that way of saying.
I'll tell you something. This is at an age where there was no social media, no nothing. Yeah. There was an unspoken rivalry, competition, right? You know, and I don't know if I should say this, but yeah, it started from the top and it worked its way down. So we were all like, you know, someone used to come back and say, oh, now we seen this next door group, right? Now they did this, but now, you know, ours is better. Like, but it was healthy, you know what I mean?
They used to train at Samson's. So yes. I remember a couple of times where Skandar used to be with Thor Blasters, with Thor Foundation, and he had one of their sheets.
I remember.
And it got din knock, you know how they used to, and it used to be like how you used to hold the dilly used to be this way, and we were like, and then secretly everyone's like, nah, man, what's that? And then at home you'd like try it, and you're like,
you used to go over and try it.
Yeah, that feels a bit comfortable.
And like it was like serious, like, you know, people nowadays won't get it, but Dhol Blasters, we weren't allowed to have black Dhol skins because it was a Dhol Foundation thing, right? And you know, big up, respect to all the Dhol Foundation lads. Like, you know, I know him, Johnny Kelsey. You know, I love him and stuff. It was a thing. You couldn't have a black skin. People looked at you. Just before we
carry on, I did a gig with Budgeon once, and Johnny Kelsey was there, and I absolutely fucking shit myself because I was a Dholi on my own. And he had that, and there's like 4 or 5 of them, and it was at that time where like I was thinking of swim, where I only knew my only beats in it,
Yeah.
and then he did the walk in, and then I'm playing along, and I got to a bit where where like sometimes when you got the rolls and you don't know the rolls, you just do it, where you play silently to go with it, and then one of the guys was like, "Oh, fucking hell, you're sick, man!" Like, and I was like trying to cover it down.
Yeah.
And one of my first podcasts that I did, Johnny Kelsey liked it, and I was like, this geezer was. He was like the rock and roll side of it, man.
And their style was so different.
And they used to have the flat doors,
straight barrel doors, and they were
allowed to them.
Crazy funky, and they had their own style. And fair play. It was, it's a great style and stuff. We were a different style, and it's a style that I preferred a bit more. Like following on from that, this is not even too long ago. This is what, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, right? And like kind of. I'd met Johnny Kelsey a couple of times, and he knew that I was a good John Uncle student and stuff. But that was it. It was just a hi bye, and that's it,
yeah.
Right? And maybe a bit longer. Maybe a bit longer than 6-7 years. So we had a show, like obviously, we'll move on to Nachos and Sard later. But I had a show with Nachos and Sard, and it was like, oh yeah, this is Dhol Foundation are going to be there. Oh, okay, wicked, yeah, good. Johnny Kelsey's going to be like, okay. And then I'm thinking, right now, it took me back to the 90s. I thought, Steve, you better fix up. I was the only one on Dhol, right? I thought, Stephen, you better fix up today, right? You need to go there and not prove a point, but just go there, and you're representing Thor Blasters in it, and I knew a lot of the Dhol players there and stuff, and so they're like, look, man, and it's always a thing when you're on stage and you got Dhol players watching, you want to play to the best of your ability, like even more than normal. You want to give it a little bit, right? Just just personal pride, basically. So I went there, and they've done this massive walk-in. There was about 30 odd Dhol players, man, 30 Dhol players. Done this walking, and then stopped, and they're all kind of standing there, and it was a bit of a weird setting. And then Nachos and Sard came on, and then it was just me on my own. So okay, yeah, done what I had to do, and it was okay. And then Johnny Kelsey was watching me, but not like in a bad way. He was,
it's loving. It's like
lovely guy, right? I love that guy to bits. But they were just watching, and they were interested. And after he come up, and he goes, "Yeah, wicked, whatever, great." And I was like, "Yeah, thank you, buddy, and whatever." And then I met him at a couple of parties. I was like, "Do you know this used to happen in the 90s?" Right? He started chuckling. He didn't admit it, but he chuckled because he knows exactly what the sketch was, right? And but the love and respect, he was always there. Johnny Kelsey, he's a top geezer.
I remember it was that the rivalry was there, that to the point of when DCS did the track with TDF, and I fought it. To this day, there's still part of me was like, nah, I don't like it. I don't want to listen to it. But it was for what it was done, it was great, and I think.
Whenever I've played with DCS, you look forward to doing that song.
Yeah.
As a Dhol player, you think, right. You look forward to playing it exactly how it was on the cassette. And you think, nah, you know what? I used to play, I used to practice it. Because you know what? You did. You did that to everyone else does, right? And fair play. It was a, iconic song. So now it's a great thing when I'm on stage, right? And you know what? When I used to play, with DCS and stuff, and that's the song you look forward to doing as a Dhol player, because that's what it's all about, right? And the TDF, love them, top boys.
Because like at the time when you play with DJ, there were certain songs that you knew that this is where you could get a rest in a song, and where it was just a simple beat, and all right, Yardball, that was a little bit, that one. And then you had, when you're at home, when you're practicing, like if you wanted to kill yourself, then you play you try. I'm not I'm not even on that level, but you had like Juggany on Grassroots and all this kind. You just to hear that this is the level to get on.
I'll tell you a story about Juggany that you mentioned it. Obviously, like if you're for example, if you're a music fan, for Bhangra music fan, Juggany is iconic. Grassroots,
Panjabi MC.
Panjabi MC is one of the greatest Punjabi music producers we will ever see. The guy is on another level, and at that time, when you put Shinto and his percussion into the mix with Panjabi, it's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you think about that kind of stuff, it's crazy. So it was one of the songs I used to practice. Not because I was going to perform it anyway. It's just the Dhol intro was legendary. I still know it to this day, beat for beat, because I've done it so long. Did a gig. right? And this is when I started playing with DJs a little bit later. I did a gig. It was at Oxford University, and it was some sort of Diwali gig, and they had Shindabadi there doing a PA, and they had Panjabi MC. So played with Shindabadi. It was the first time I played on stage with Shindabadi. Obviously, I was shitting myself and whatever, and I went to see him after, and I said, "Look, buddy, I was like, my dad used to learn from you and whatever." And he goes, "Ha, very good and stuff." But then Panjabi MC came on. He dropped Juggani, and I thought, this is your time to shine now. And I played it note for note. Thank the Lord. Played it note for note. Right. And then Panjabi MC, like, touchwood, like, he was quite impressed and stuff. Got off and I started speaking to him. He goes, "Yo," the first thing he asked me, there was a little bit in the point where something went off, but I carried on playing, and like he came back in and whatever. Came off stage and he said to me, he goes, "You're a GMAL student, aren't you?" I goes, "You what?" And I was like, yeah. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "GMAL students." He goes, "Only you guys could have done that." And I was like, wow. That's just testament to, good uncle and stuff, right? And like he'd never seen me or really like, not the first time I pretty much met him. And he goes,
but I think even in like going a little bit back to like Thor Blasters in that sense, I mean, hopefully people are listening can probably pick up the passion in terms of what we're talking about and understand.
It's going to be lost on a lot of people.
Yeah.
We're getting a bit too deep, right?
But there's a bit, you had other people, strong leaders in there. You had like Dav and Banga and Dings.
You had a core of some very
Raj, Dav, and then you had
solid Skinny Dav, right, who plays with B21 now, phenomenal. Then you got the Money Spinner Boys, Dings, Dav, Banga, who obviously everyone knows now. Phenomenal door players, phenomenal musicians, right? And then you had the likes of Gurj Gill, you had Pritpal Channa, you had Sonny Johal, right? Even some of the Cloud9 boys, so Dipsy from Cloud9 used to play, right? You had a guy called Suki Dolly, who I alluded on earlier from Nach de Hoste, right? He used to play, and these guys were like solid door players, man. And so it was a very good group of door players to be in because you had that very good in a team. Everyone wanted to be as good as they possibly could. So when you're with people at a certain level, you need to make sure that you're at that level, right? So it made everyone work harder, made everyone practice harder, and so it was an awesome kind of team to be a part of.
So obviously the door conversation come on for bloody years. But in terms of some of the other instruments, were you learning that alongside it, or was that something that later on that you felt that you needed to do to kind of move you more advanced than some of those other peers that you just mentioned?
Yeah, it was just a love. As a kid, it was just a love for music, especially drums and percussion. So it was anything that I could get a sound out of, I used to have a go on, especially dolki. Right, we used to have all the instruments at home. I used to learn drums at school. Right, because we had a drum kit at home, so I used to mess around at home. And then when I went to school, I learned drums. So a lot of it all started out from percussion. Tabla, dolki, but dol was main, drums. And so now I love playing different percussion instruments because I grew up on loving percussion, and then kind of tumbi and stuff started to come in from the age of about 12, 13, 14 maybe, and it was just something else that I then wanted to pick up. And, at the time, in Thor Blasters, I was a bit younger, so the other guys were a bit older. And so they'd started picking up different instruments and I'd already kind of been picking up instruments. But the tumbi and kind of more of the melodic side of the instruments came.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. And then someone who I want to mention, and I'll get to why I was thinking that, is where to be the way that you play, you got a lot of power, a lot of strength in terms of how you hit in the door, and that to get then to play something more delicate like a like a tumbi, or you play flute or whatever it may be. It brings another side to you. But like so like Machine Gun Billy, from play
exactly.
Play with 4x4 the Jazzy B, and you watch him play and this geezer is breaking something today.
Dangerous.
Yeah, unbelievable.
He's one of them, I get tired watching him.
Yeah.
He's He's unbelievable. He's a machine gun for a reason.
Yeah. So, like, in terms of how then do you kind of balance that finesse, because you're used to your fingers, your hands are into the. I remember seeing some door players. I think it could have been Gubsy I spoke to once, and I think whether he had to have surgery because all of his arm, the nerves in his arms are like all seizing up and stuff.
Yeah. The thing is, technically, how we were taught with Good John and Co. We were technically very sound how we were taught in terms of, like, I'm not here to kind of criticize anyone's technique, but I'm happy with the way I was taught. And, Dhol also has a lot of finesse that people don't see, when you see Dhol players now with DJs. And when you play with DJs, it's about just playing hard and strong and solid. But, when you go and transition into playing for Bhangra teams, that's where the finesse comes in. And we were taught those beats with finesse, right? Like, I mean, not being too technical, but some of the chummers and, the mirzas and those kind of technical beats require a lot of finesse. And so, the transition then comes into like, okay, how can we get the Dhol to sound sweet, right? Yes, Dhols are loud, powerful, people bang them and whatever, but, we were always taught to play with finesse. And it doesn't change as a musician. Like, finesse needs to be in everything, whether you're playing Dhol, drums, Dholki, tabla, baja, tumbi, or anything like that, right? That the finesse needs to be there. And for me, it was never a case of, I'm used to playing such a loud instrument, but I want to try something a bit softer. It's just, I love the sound of the tumbi, always wanted to play it. So I picked it up and kind of played it, you know what I mean?
So how many other instruments can you play then?
I'm not a major musician, but I love trying different things. But yeah, I like to mess around. Dholki, tabla, tumbi, drums, baja, and I played a lot of different other kind of percussion like box drums, kahons, bakongos, bongos, things like that. But I'm not a confessed musician. I'm a fan, and so when I pick up something, I just want to kind of learn keyboards or stuff like that I mess around with every now and again. So that's it. It's just kind of the passion of it, and by no means would I class myself as a. But
knowing all of these instruments, do you reckon subconsciously that you were going towards going to the singing journey?
Nah, no, maybe, but singing was never at the forefront. Like you'll interview a lot of singers, and all they wanted to do was become a singer. It was.
I haven't interviewed that many singers. I don't think I have.
Yeah. Well, going forward, right? But
only Upper Pudgeons, I'll give him that.
He is a singer. Yeah, no, it was never a thing that I want to be a singer. Yeah, now that I look back, it might have helped me a lot musically, but
surely it must do if you're going into studio, and it's one of the only kind of questions that I wrote here. Not even look, I'll just prove it here, right? Just there, right? Which was, how did you then choose your sound and style? Because surely, by knowing what instruments producing and the type of sound, the type of wood on a Dhol that you've got that is metalia or amber, whatever, surely you would know roughly what your sound is, and that needs to be distinctive. Like Sahotas have a sound, other bands have a sound, and I'm going to kind of go out on a limb that I can't believe that you might not have entertained that question.
You entertain it more. I've entertained it more now, but at the time when you're playing Dhol or being a musician or whatever, you don't think of making a style. I never personally did. Like you don't set out to make a style. Your style is just made by how you've learned, the people that you listen to, right? Whether that's kind of Dhol or anything or singing, but mainly around, let's talk about musical instruments. How you've learned, right, technically, and it's the people that you listen to. Where your style comes from, where your style's derived from, is all your influences and all your inspirations. So if you listen to a certain type of person or certain type of people, you're naturally going to want to sound like that, or want to take something from them. Do you see what I mean? So, it was never a thing that I thought of that, what's my style? Now, after having played for so many years, I'm a bit clear on what my style is because of what a lot of people have told me, or what I enjoy listening to, you know what I mean? So I think, you never set out to make a style or define a style. It just kind of, it happens due to different factors.
Because you know, like there was many a party where we've been together and you're singing, and you know, I've always said to you, like, I've always bugged you saying, when's it coming out? When's it coming out, Stephen, when's it happening? When's it? Why do you think that there was a right amount of gap from when you were playing music, doing all that stuff, and then to go to singing?
Yes and no. Yes, because when I first got into singing, it was, you know, like I said, it was a complete accident. I literally fell into it. I broke my wrist, had a couple of operations. I couldn't play Dhol for a number of years, like, you know, a couple of years. And at the time I was with, you know, my team, Nachdas and Sahota, and I was like, I can't sit at home. Like, I don't know what a weekend is. Like, I'm so used to going out. And I used to mess around and sing and stuff at training and stuff, but zero training, zero like musical understanding. Like, you know, I touch upon like all these different instruments that I, you know, I play a little bit, but I still lacked the understanding of music, what music is, what the theory is behind it, sort and everything, and key and scale and stuff. So I just used to just sing, and it was just natural. And only when a couple of the Sahota lads picked up on it, you know, and you know, it kind of just happened. Our singer couldn't make a show, and I was just literally put into the deep end, and that's how it kind of started. And then once I got injured, I carried on, and when I got to a stage where I was getting a lot of good feedback, and you know, there was producers that were chasing me saying, look, you know, we want to do a song and stuff, but I knew I wasn't ready because I knew I didn't have that understanding of.
And how long ago was that to the point where you actually released?
Yeah, so I've been learning music and singing from my Staji Bharpoor Singh Saul, Pura Baji, as people know, way back in, say, 2012. So 2012, I went to him. I'd been singing about a year or so prior to that with Nachdas and Sahota on stage. So it was literally, you know, a lot of my stage experience was gained without actually having that understanding. And you know, now that I look back and listen to some of that, I think, oh my God, like,
what was your first lesson like? Because obviously, like, you've been singing for a year, you must be thinking, I ain't that, like, I can learn, but I ain't gonna be that bad. What was it like?
Put it this way, like, I'd been singing, and there was a clip that went out. It was Milan, we sang, right, and like, you know, that clip alone, like, you know, a lot of people forwarded it to me and said, oh man, you know, it sounds really good. And then it got to a stage where I was like, look, if I'm going to pursue this, I need to learn. And so I went to Pura Baji. First of all, I was just scared to ring him, because if you're in the industry, you know what he's about. Like, you know, he's the Gorpai of Shindabaji, you know, like Shin DCS. He learns from, you know, Ustad, you know, Ajit Singh Madlashiji, who's, you know, one of the cornerstones of kind of Indian classical music here in the UK, and you know, he's revered kind of around the world, right? So you're in very high company, and like, you know, these guys are on another planet.
And right? He can sort your back out as well.
And but he could kick my ass and then sort my back out. Yeah. You know, I had nothing to, like, you know, fall back on. But yeah, I was just scared to phone him. Luckily, I think he'd seen a video of me, and you know, he was like, okay, he goes, come down with your baja and see what you can do. And at that stage, I really had no idea how to play baja either. It was, you know, I was a very when I used to play music, it was all about what I used to hear without understanding keys. I used to play what I could hear, so it's not good because you've still got no understanding. And I sat there, and he went through, you know, he gave me Sare Gama Pa, and you know, I think I was pretty awful. And that's when it kind of brings you back down to earth a little bit, in the sense that, right, wow. So it doesn't matter how you sing on stage and people like it, but this is the basics. This is the stuff that you need to know. You know, so it was, you know, it was a proper reality check. Not that I thought I was amazing, but it puts you into puts it into perspective, like how much you've actually still got to learn. Do you know what I mean? Mm. Oh yeah, it was a lot different. My first lesson wasn't great by any means, and you know, we learned from the basics basically, and we're still kind of, you know, just doing that.
And that's the key thing, isn't it, in your relationship, in terms of like you never sort of stop. You still are going, and having the maintenance, the dedication that's in there. So we go on.
No, I was going to say, look, the maintenance and dedication is just, it's about how much you want something. You know what I mean? That's where it comes from. And then, you know, we're a proper little family now. Like, we're a clique. You know, Budgie teaches me. He teaches, you know, Banga, who obviously people know. He teaches another guy called Sukjita, who's, you know, the guy's seriously talented individual, singing, writing, producing, you know, and people will be hearing from him very soon. But it's a little family that we've got. It's a brotherhood. So you almost, even if you don't want to go, you have to go, because you don't want to let anyone down. And, you know what I mean? It's like that team chemistry, and it's that kind of, you know, camaraderie, you know, and also, yeah, the dedication, hard work. It's all about how much you want it, right?
So we got you know, you talked about the WhatsApp kind of thing, and you know, you were going quite viral, especially in a lot of the circles that we are together anyway.
Yeah.
And then you got to the point of where you were gonna, you know, you're dropping your first single. So, you know, if somebody was thinking about you at that time, it would be almost kind of a Natis Hassan kind of set, or something heavy, to Tumbi, everything like that, kind of like pure folk kind of vibe. But then you decided to do more of a different vibe as your debut single, which was Bhagat Singh. What was the thinking around that?
Yeah, because when I was kind of ready to release, COVID then happened. So, you know, funnily enough,
it's bad time. Yeah, go on, carry on.
Yeah, bad time. But funnily enough, basically, when I first got to a stage where kind of Buddy said, look, right, I think you're ready now. You can go out, let's look at some songs, let's get them recorded, let's, you know, let's go now, let's move with this. And, you know, first, like, you know, when I first started, I was like, look, I want to do something like Bhagat Singh, because that's another part of kind of who I am. My granddad was a communist, on this again. So in our house, we always learnt about these people, we always knew about these people. All right. And so I was like, I want to start off with this and just kind of dedicate something to my granddad, who's obviously, you know, he's no longer with us. You know, and I remember producers at the time, they're like, no, don't do that. You're just going to get typecasted and that's it. And at the you're young and naive, and you think, Charlie Tiga, we'll do it another time. And so that when I was ready to kind of release, COVID happened. And then I just held back stuff. I was like, look, I'm not going to release anything in COVID. You know, because you put a lot of time, effort, and money into things as well. You know, you don't want things to just go down the pan, and especially if you're trying to produce, you know, songs which are, you want people to dance to and kind of dance floor songs. And if there's no dance floors, then pointless, right? So it kind of just came back to 360, and, you know, the Bhagat Singh project then kind of, it was something I was working on very, very, it was just on the back burner. I was like, right, okay, let's do this. And, you know, and we did it. But don't forget, the Bhagat Singh song, regardless of the content and the material, the key elements of me were still in there, right? You know, the style of the vocal, you know, I tried to just be me, and you know, that was folk. There was a lot of Dhol in there. There was a lot of Algoje in there. There was a Baja piece. So we still, you know, there was still a very big Desi folk element in that.
I think it's probably more in terms of what you just actually said before, in terms of going for the dance floor. But if COVID and things like, what's the point really?
Yeah, exactly. So it was a case of, right, okay, so let's still release something, but let's release something relevant to what was going on at the time. Obviously, the farmers' protest was happening as well. You know, so it was very, you know, that whole revolution kind of element, the matter of the song was very relevant at the time. But yeah, in anything I do, there's always got to make sure there's me in there, and there's got to be that dissiness and that bit of folkness, you know. And so I was adamant. I was like, I'm going to have Dhol in this. There's got to be Tolki, there's got to be a Baja, there's got to be Algoje. And like, we just still chucked it in there, but, you know, we had a slightly different flavor. But, you know, the key ingredients of me, or what I'm made up of, were in there.
And then how soon did you have to turn around and say, like, I remember a conversation that I heard once with one of the artists on a radio show, saying that they planned their next single kind of every 45 days. And you know, to have that kind of work schedule is ridiculous, like, you know, and the finance around it, which is the truth, which is the other side that people don't necessarily see, in terms of people put so much effort, you know, music artists, everyone putting in these videos are not cheap. You're pulling in a lot of favors from a lot of people, you know, to kind of sustain this. And then how did you decide, like, okay, right, I need to do another one? Or was that one of the projects? So it was Fanboy, were you working on that at the same time, or did that come shortly after?
Yeah. So there was a few projects that I was working on at the same time. Fanboy being one of them. You know, I was going to release another song. Basically, the first song was going to be another song, which is not yet released. But then we kind of just switched back, and then kind of went with Fanboy first. But yeah, look, it's a hustle, and especially someone, you know, there's probably other people like me out there, independent artists. Basically, people are not signed to a record label. People, you know, you've got no funding behind you, you've got no backing behind you, and like you said, you know, it's a very expensive hobby. Like, you know, it's not cheap. Like, you know, we have to fund everything ourselves. So as much as I'd like to release something every month or every month and a half, you got to kind of step back and kind of look at the logistics and things of, you know, you've also got to analyze the market and kind of look at when the best time is to drop something. But yes, you need to have a pipeline, and that's kind of, you know, something that, you know, as a hustle, is tough.
So you're in that video, and it done very well. It was, you know, it was a good hit. How did you kind of deal with that, with the reception of the track?
Yeah, it was nice, man. It was, you know, I didn't register for a couple of days, like, you know, especially even with the Bhagat Singh single. Bhagat Singh was not a commercial song at all. You know, for what it was, it still did relatively well, like in terms of, you know, and
yeah, but there's no expectations of that because the type of song that it is, isn't it?
It was just nice to put your first song out there. It's your first product out in the market, but
on the right foot.
Yeah, exactly. It was a first step, basically. Fanboy, we had a lot of hopes and dreams on it because I loved the song. Right, and I thought, right, there's something in this, with, you know, and, you know, together with kind of Chaos Productions, who, you know, that the reason I went to them was the end product of Fanboy. They delivered exactly what I wanted, and they were amazing to work with. But yeah, I didn't, between me and like Amo from Chaos, we thought it was going to appeal to obviously a certain crowd, the folk heads, the kind of dissy heads, and, you know, and I was happy enough in that, but the reception that we got back, you know, especially from people like the Asian Network, you know, who had it on their kind of playlists, and anyone that knows, it's kind of, you know, it's notoriously hard to get on their kind of playlists, and so I was taken aback from it, and, you know, it was a really nice feeling, and that the song done better than we expected, and, you know, and it's done relatively well without any kind of, you know, paid backing or anything like that. It was all organic. Everything's organic, and people still play it. People still reach out to me, and it done very well for me, and, you know, I'm glad that I've put something out there on the market that people enjoyed.
Do you think, like the likes of Asian Network that you just mentioned there, in terms of like they're surprised, or they're thankful that they've got a new fresh artist, a new fresh face coming through on the market? Because at this point in time, there isn't that, when you look afar, there isn't. Normally you used to hear whispers of, oh, this person's going to do it. Sometimes that channel is going, the volume on that channel is going down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was very surprised, like, you know, for Fanboy being a you know, dissy folk song, for it to be given the kind of airplay that, you know, a BBC Asian Network gave it, because I wasn't expecting that, because, you know, like, you know, they take different directions, and so on and so forth, and rightly so, that, you know, whatever they probably know what they're doing better than me, right? But yeah, I was very surprised, and yeah, it had quietened down, and you know, that's why it was a bigger surprise, like I said, you know, to get something played of that nature of song. Basically, it was a lovely surprise.
Throughout the conversation today, there's always been an element of you learning or teaching, or you've been taught. Do you take a little bit of a responsibility in terms of nurturing the next talent, learning through your lessons as well?
Yeah, look, you know, life is just like, life's a journey, and you're always learning on the journey, and especially musically, you're always going to be learning. So if I can help anyone out there, and quite often, people do ask me for, little bits, and I don't confess to be a teacher, I don't confess to know it all, but I can only, tell someone or tell them what little I know, basically. And, people have done that to me. So if I look up to kind of some of my inspirations and idols that have helped me along the way, if I'm in a position to help someone else, then why wouldn't I, right? Like, if because of me or because of someone or anyone, a child or a kid has an interest for music, that's, if I can do anything to help that or kind of let that grow, then, that's kushi, like, you feel good about it.
So what's kind of in the pipeline for you now? What's coming up for you now?
Yeah, so basically, like, this project's happening as we speak. In the next, very soon, maybe even, I think in the next couple of days. Those of you who kind of seen on my socials, we've released a little teaser of a little cover that I'm doing with PIND, who are a Birmingham-based music outfit. Very good lads, friends of mine. And so there's going to be something a bit special behind that cover as well, in terms of it's going to be slightly different to what it is. So stay tuned on that, and that will be coming out in the next, couple of days. So that's
coming out. So this is
depending on when this is released, it might already.
No, it'll be on the same day.
Okay. But you don't even know when it's releasing, so I don't even know when it's releasing.
This is getting released in 2 days' time on Wednesday, 6:30.
So it'll probably be around the same day, or maybe day before. I might let this release and then release it.
I could put the links on the description. As long as you release it before 6:30, I'll put on the links for you.
Well, we'll talk. So I literally, on the Sunday, we're in Monday today.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we'll put a teaser out there, and that's got to be just a cover that we done, and it's one for the folk dissy heads, and that's what I like doing, right? And so, but there's something different around the kind of way we've gone about doing it, and it's a tribute to one of the greatest singers of all time, my favorite singer of all time, the king of folk, Gariyanda Badshah, Staji Kuldeep Manik. So, it's his 10-year anniversary. It was kind of last week. And so this is something we've released, just, testament to his memory and the influence that he's had on me, and a lot of other singers around.
I think with virtually every singer, really.
Yeah. I mean, it goes without saying. I don't need to say anything that.
Yeah. It's a standard line, isn't it? It's just like, shit, no.
And like I'll tell you something, my crowning, like the peak of my music career, whatever it goes kind of down the road, but I don't think it will ever beat playing on stage with Kuldeep Manik at the age of 7 or 8 years old. And the people that are on my profile that have seen that picture with Manik, that it happened around then, and kind of playing on stage with Staji is the pinnacle, I think, of anything that I'll ever achieve. That sits at number one.
So instead of sitting now, we're jumping on Bandwagon. So as you know, we're coming to that time in the podcast where I'll give an opportunity for the guest to kind of either jump on a bandwagon or jump off. No one's actually jumped on a bandwagon yet.
It says a lot about bandwagon.
Okay, thanks. You're supposed to be supporting me.
No, I'm always supporting.
No. In terms of, is there anything that you feel that you feel like you get off your chest, or this is an opportunity for you to kind of raise anything?
Just, like, this is, predominantly kind of a UK band, UK podcast, and, people around the world are listening to it, but, we're trying to fly the flag for the UK. So, support homegrown artists, support live music. Live music's a big part of my journey. Support live music, support homegrown artists. And, we need a new generation of musicians. Feel free to go out there, pick up a musical instrument, whether it's the dhol, and I know there's 1,000,001 dhol players out there, but I'll always fly the flag for my fellow dhol players. But any instrument, pick it up, and just, get on board with something, and, You know, we want good quality musicians coming through. We want good quality singers coming through, right? And the main thing is like we're Punjabi, right? ਅਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹਾਂ, so ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਵੀ ਬੋਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਘਰ ਮਾੜੀ ਮੋਟੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਬੋਲਿਆ ਕਰੋ, because you know our Punjabi, our mother tongue is, you know, it's dying out, unfortunately, and you know it is what it is. But to parents, to kids, anyone that watches, right, ਜਿੰਨੀ ਥੋੜੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੋਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਮਾੜੀ ਮੋਟੀ ਬੋਲਿਆ ਕਰੋ ਘਰ, right, ਕਰਕੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆ, right? We sing, we're in the Punjabi music industry, we're in the Bhangra industry, we sing Punjabi songs, so Punjabi karke asing, right? And so without our Maboli, Apakoshavini, right? And nor any of the other singers out there. So yeah, man, stay true to your roots and pick up a musical instrument.
I mean, you know, it's a really good point that you make from there, because even when you're looking at some of the old shops where we used to buy some of our old equipment, you know, they're struggling as well. Like you're not getting people trying to buy some of the instruments or even know where to learn from nowadays.
Yeah, you know, having said that, if you really want to find something, you will. Like, look, the world's such a small place now. Social media plays such a big part in our lives, right? If you want to learn something, right, no matter to even a little minor standard or a little basic standard, all you need to go is on you just need to go to YouTube. It's got everything there. You know, there's people out there that are doing online lessons, Zoom lessons, or anything like that, right? You can buy instruments. You know, there are still shops that sell instruments, and yeah, you're right, they're not as vibrant as, you know, how we remember them and how they once were. But I just think with technology advancements, there's so many open kind of avenues to learning stuff.
I'll tell you one thing that I saw.
In any case, it's never been easier to learn something, I think. Yeah,
no, that's a fair point, actually. I'll tell you one thing I did see. You know how we were talking about like the black door skins? I see what I think is that Kaka Yogi.
Oh yeah.
He had like the Joker face on skins and like different. I was like, where the fuck was that when we were younger?
The India boys, they're on a different level. I've seen Jokers, I've seen flowers, I've seen imprints of names and pictures. There's clear ones, there's black ones, there's white ones, there's coated skins. Oh, mate, could do anything these days.
We should do a special Dhol podcast, really.
That'd be sick. I could talk about Dhol all day and all night. It'd be good. You know, you should get some of the other Dhol players on there as well.
We will, man.
It should be a group discussion.
Yeah,
people are going to watch this and like, is this guy, you know, does he still want to be a singer? All he's bothered about is a Dhol. But no, people are going to understand like it's a big part of my life. And I wouldn't be a singer, basically.
No, I think even where we're having our little back and forth and you know, jokes and stuff like that, I think it's a real testament in terms of where people can actually see that you are a student of music, you've gone through, and you're not this thing that just turns up, releases a track, and you know there's a massive history involved in your journey, and it continue will. And you know, I wish you all the best, and you know, I'll be backing you 100%. So anything we can do, always support you, and respect to your journey. And I can't wait for Wednesday now.
Wednesday, yeah, I better get my ass into gear and make sure it's released now.
Stephen, thanks, mate.
Take care, Eric. Thank you so much.
Cheers. No problem.